And because I started to see myself differently, because I do
Mm.
believe that the way you see money is about the way you see yourself, because money is an amplifier. It's going to either create more of or less of whatever you think you're worthy of. And so, because I started to intensify my confidence and my competence around money, it created more of it to come into my life experience. Same talents. I was as talented pre-bankruptcy as I was after, but I had a new knowledge and understanding of myself and money and the two of them in relation. And so I could start to charge way more for the same service I was providing before because of how I understood my connection to money.
Hey friends, welcome to The Good Life with Michele Lamoureux, a show for women in midlife who want to live happier, healthier, and more meaningful lives. I'm your host, Michele Lamoureux, a self-love coach and the author of Design a Life You Love. And together we're going to be doing just that. Each week I bring on world-class experts, best-selling authors, leading entrepreneurs, and also do solo casts with the intention of inviting you to get connected to what you really desire from your life. This show is produced with love every week. There's inspiration and actionable tips in every episode because I want to see women playing a starring role in their lives instead of living on the sidelines. Be sure to join the Good Life community newsletter over at thegoodlifecoach.com for more inspiration and tips to live your best midlife. And make sure you're following the show on your favorite podcast player. I'm so glad that you're here. Hey friends, welcome back to the show. Today we are talking about cultivating a money mindset while deepening your faith. Joining us is Darnyelle Jervey Harmon, who is the CEO of Incredible One Enterprises, which is a multi-million-dollar coaching and consulting brand. Best known for transforming the lives of her business coaching clients from mindset to messaging, marketing, sales, systems, and scale. Darnyelle can take you from 6 to 7 figures in record time, all while deepening your connection to God and strengthening your faith. She's an award-winning CEO whose work has been featured in Essence, Success, Black Enterprise, and O magazines, and she's the author of a book called Move to Millions. Welcome, Darnyelle. I'm so happy to have you on the show today.
Thank you, Michele. I'm so excited to be here.
Well, I have talked money mindset on the show a few times. I think it's so important and essential, especially for women, and my show's for women in midlife.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the fact that there's a connection to faith and to God intrigued me.
Mm-hmm.
I think we have a similar mindset. I listened to one of your interviews on another show where you said God is my source, and I
Mm-hmm.
live by that.
Yeah.
I think it's beautiful and empowering, and so I'm excited to learn more about your story and what we can learn about cultivating this money mindset in the way that you uniquely do.
Yeah, I'm excited to be here and I'm excited to have this conversation. Part of my mission is to normalize talking about money. Most of us grew up in homes where money was a little thing that was taboo. And to talk about it was intrusive and rude and maybe even arrogant. And it was associated with all of these negative feelings and emotions. And it stifled our understanding of what it is, if we were even ever taught anything about it at all. I know my household, I'm proud to say that I was financially illiterate, right? I knew nothing except for what I observed my parents and how they struggled around money. I'm sure some of that was belief, right? Some of it was the society that we were in at the time, being a woman of color, a Black girl, watching my dad and my mom who just robbed Peter to pay Paul and worked extra hard for the little bit that they had to provide for us. And I believe that my parents did the best that they could with what they have. But the beauty of growing up and becoming open to a different reality that you grew up in is what brought me here, and what allows me to do this work today as a multimillionaire worth 8 figures. And the interesting thing about that, Michele, and I know we'll unpack it, but at 35 I was bankrupt.
Wow.
And I'm 48 today, worth 12 million. Like
You go.
everything started to change around the point in which I filed bankruptcy, and all the bad money decisions and everything that I didn't know about money is what led me to that bankruptcy. And everything from that moment when that bankruptcy trustee required me to take a financial literacy course is what changed my life.
Wow.
Yeah. And I
Okay.
don't know
So
if other states do that, but in the state of Delaware, and I don't even know if it was just my bankruptcy trustee, and he probably looked at my debt and was like, this girl needs to learn about money. I don't know if he only told me, Michele, but I'm grateful that he did because I learned what money was, and it shifted my trajectory and how I'm able to be in service to the planet now because I understand what money is and can create a safe space for people to challenge their beliefs and to have a real conversation about money that will actually impact what they generate and how they have it to leave for legacy is really important.
Okay, I love this already so much. So take us into what were those limiting beliefs and that mindset for younger Darnyelle?
Yeah.
And then when you took that course, what were you taught that turned on and shifted literally the trajectory of your life from bankruptcy to multimillionaire?
Yeah. So young Darnyelle started learning about money around age 6. I remember going to the grocery store with my mother and I wanted a treat and I put it up for it to be purchased. And my mom saw it, right? And she backhanded me. And she said, and I quote, money is only for what we need.
Mm.
That was my first lesson of money. Now, my mom ended up going to jail during my 8th birthday party. So just 2 years later, she went to jail. I went to live with my father. Both of my parents were addicts. My mom less functional than my dad. My dad kept a good job, fingers in air quotes, the whole time. And yet and still, he was controlled by a substance, right? Drugs were their thing. Started out as heroin, I believe, and then it turned into crack when
Mm.
crack became a thing in the late 80s, early 90s. And so from my dad, once I went to live with him, I used to hear him all the time on the phone or in the kitchen talking to his buddy Calvin,
Mm.
talking about the evil white people who had all of the money and that were keeping it from us Black people, right? I used to hear that all the time.
Yeah.
When he wasn't saying that, he was either teaching me that money didn't grow on a tree out back or that I had to work twice as hard for half as much and I should be grateful that I got even that. So I started working at 13 because that was the only way to get my own money. And my dad made me put every 50% of every paycheck in the bank, which was cool. So
Yeah.
that by the time I was 16, I had about $7,500 in the bank.
Yeah.
Except one day I did not have cheerleading practice. I got home and I got the mail and I opened my bank statement to realize that I had $34.19. And when I confronted my father about it, his response was, oh, you thought you were living here for free.
Uh,
So that day, I learned that no matter how much money you have, it can be taken from you, whether you want it to be taken or not.
wow.
And so all of these little lessons and not being taught what money was and how it really worked. And honestly, I don't think my parents taught it to me because they couldn't teach it to me because they didn't know. They
Yeah.
were financially illiterate. They were, robbing Peter to pay Paul, working really, really hard for the little bit that they got. Everything that they were passing down to me was what they were living. It was their truth and it
Mm.
was their reality. And so that's why I always say, my parents, I believe that they did the best that they could with what they had, right?
Yes.
And
Yes.
I honor them for everything that they did to bring me here, right? And everything that they did, it didn't kill me, right? It did, in fact, make me stronger, make me more inquisitive, and to seek these lessons for myself. But before that happened, I was blessed enough to go to college on a full academic scholarship. Yet when I graduated at 21, I had the equivalent of having 4 year student loans and credit card debt.
Mm.
And by the time I was 30, I had $250,000 in credit card debt.
Wow.
Um, I smile because every time I stop and think about that, I'm like, what in the world? And I did a podcast interview the other day and he's like, what did you buy? And just so we're clear, Michele and everybody else out there who's wondering, was not wearing Gucci or Prada. I was not driving a Maserati. Like I didn't have any of the things one would think one would have if they have that much credit card debt, right?
Yes.
I spent that money trying to befriend and be loved by the people in my life. So
Mm.
friend calls and says, oh, I ran into a problem. I can't pay my electric bill. Here's my credit card, right? I had an 800 credit score. I was working in a bank. I didn't start out with $50,000 credit lines, but over time, when you pay well, they keep rewarding you with more credit, right? I mean,
Yes,
that's a whole nother
totally.
hierarchy and patriarchal of our society that we don't even necessarily have to get into unless you want to go there.
Yes.
And so, by 30, 35, or $250,000 in debt, and I robbed Peter to pay Paul for as long as I could. And then eventually around 35, I couldn't keep up with it anymore. And I had to do the unthinkable, the thing I never wanted to do. I was so nervous and humiliated that it had ever gotten to that. And the thought that I was going to be a public record, because a bankruptcy is a public record and people were going to know. I was just like, but I held it off as long as I could, and I just couldn't hold it anymore. And so I did. I filed bankruptcy, and I was able to file a Chapter 7 just based on my income and those specific things. And
What
when
does
we
that
got
mean? Chapter
no,
7.
Chapter 7 versus a Chapter 13. Chapter 7 is a complete dissolution. So you are no longer held responsible for any of the debt. Whereas a Chapter 13 is a reorganization. You don't pay it all back, but you pay a portion of it back.
Okay.
So I got to discharge everything. And the bankruptcy trustee looked at me. And like I said, I don't know if he did this for other people or not. I don't know if it was just this girl needs my help and let me save her. But he required the only way that my bankruptcy would be discharged is if I attended a financial literacy course. And that defining moment changed my life, because the course, there were two textbooks. The one, I can't even remember what it was, but the second book was called A Happy Pocket Full of Money by David Cameron Giocondi. If you've ever read this book, it is a book that really teaches you about the neuroscience and the psychology of money and how money actually works and how money works in relation to how we see ourselves and how we see money. It talks about the fact that money is an energy, right? It's called currency for a reason. It's a current that is always flowing. That's the only way we can explain that right now we have extreme wealth and extreme poverty in our country, is because money is always flowing and money is moving. And money moves to those who believes that there is an abundance of it and they deserve it. And money moves away from those who believe that there is a shortage of it. And so learning these mechanics around money, coupled with the other textbook, which was some of the traditional learnings around money, how to budget, how to do a budget, how to balance, how to read financial statements, what it says about you. The two of them together is what allowed me to, first and foremost, understand what money was. Second, and more importantly, recognize things like time is money is a lie. It's a misnomer, something we believe. But the fact is, time is way more valuable than money, right? But if you believe that time is money, then you will work in exchange for money. And money actually, or access to money, isn't about work. It's about alignment. It's about understanding what it is and being congruent to the energy that produces it. And so for those who are listening, it may sound a little abstract, and I'm happy to go deep and make it practical. But that, coupled with the actual text about what we most know about money, flipped that switch for me. And because I started to see myself differently, because I do believe that the way you see money is about the way you see yourself, because money is an amplifier. It's going to either create more of or less of whatever you think you're worthy of. And so because I started to intensify my confidence and my competence around money, it created more of it to come into my life experience. Same talents. I was as talented pre-bankruptcy as I was after, but I had a new knowledge and understanding of myself and money, and the two of them in relation. And so I could start to charge way more for the same service I was providing before, because of how I understood my connection to money. And people would happily pay it because I had the results to substantiate that there was value for it at that price point. And so as a result of that, things started to shift. And within 3 years, I had $1 million company, and I had my first $1 million assets outside of my home, right? Because there are some circles where your property can't make you a millionaire, because, anybody's property potentially could make them a millionaire. And then we just started to replicate it and multiply it through learning how to invest. I learned about the stock market, right? Learning how to invest, learning how to acquire real estate. Like, just continuing to deepen my knowledge so I could continue to multiply my money. And that's what leads us to where we are today.
Okay. So we have to keep unpacking this because it's so good.
Yeah,
All right. You
absolutely.
used the word alignment. So I want to
Mhm.
understand more about alignment. And I also want to hear, what were those limiting beliefs? I mean, you talked about how your mom said, money's for what you need. And so after
Mhm.
you read this book, you said the switch went on. I want to hear what was the new belief system around money that was your new programming?
Yeah, money is always here and it never stops moving. There is no shortage of money, and I can create it whenever I want. So I realized during this period that there are three different thoughts and constructs around money. Poor people, or a poverty mindset, are those people who believe money is just to pay bills,
Yes.
right? A
Yes.
middle class mindset, those are the people who believe that money is to pay your bills on time so that you can have good credit, so that you can extend and expand your ability to get more things that you can't really afford.
Mm.
Whereas wealthy people believe that money is designed to create more money. And so they're looking for ways to use their money to multiply their money so that they can have more of it. And they use the multiplied money in order to do the things that they desire to do in the world,
Yes.
like living off the interest, right? Our main money is out making us more money, and we use our money that came in because we made more to live the life that it is that we desire to live. That's why the stock market works the way that it does, and the people that invest. And so coming into this knowledge as a brown girl, right? These concepts were so foreign to me, but also so exciting to me. Like I would have a one big fat goosebump all over my body as I was reading this stuff because it made so much sense.
Yeah.
And I now had access to it. I didn't have access to it before because I didn't come from a place where there was someone who could teach me about money.
Yes.
Right. And so
Yes.
now I have these new beliefs to replace with the old beliefs. And the thing that makes a belief is recognize, or a belief that you hold with a level of conviction so that it becomes a knowing instead of a belief,
Yes.
right? Because
Yes.
there's a lie in belief. Most of the things we believe are not, in fact, the truth. They're things that we observed or someone else taught us that we just kept hanging on to, right?
Yes.
So
Yes.
the thing that transitioned these beliefs into knowing was the evidence. So I would perform a step in terms of let's talk about the energy of money. So I believe that money needs purpose to come into your life experience. So instead of saying I want $1 million just for sniffs and giggles, right?
Yeah.
I want $1 million so that I fill in the blanks, so that I can buy a new house, so that I can contribute to this cause, so that I can put money in my retirement, so that I can hire a team. As soon as you designate a purpose for money, you're creating containers for money to flow into.
Mm.
As you decide, as you pick a dollar amount, whatever that dollar amount is, your level of congruency to whether that amount is a lot or a little will determine how quickly it flows into your life experience. So for those people who think that $1 million is a lot, that's probably why they haven't done it in a year in their business. They haven't created capacity for it to flow in. So you have to start saying, this year, my business, we're going to hit, our revenue is going to be only $1 million. Or next year, our business is going to do only $5 million. As soon as you put only in front of the number, you reduce and remove all of the tension that it's this big, arduous thing, and you make it small and bite-sized enough for money to see the purpose in it to start to flow in your life experience.
Okay.
So I played this game with myself, and I do it all the time. So here's an example from about 6 years ago. My husband and I were building a home, brand new construction. We went to the design center and we went ham. We wanted everything, hardwood floors all throughout. Give us the marble, change out everything. Yes, build a pool in the back, do all the things. And when we got the final bill, it was like $250,000 in options. The
Okay.
deposit on our options was $50,000. My husband, who comes from, a different money mindset and upbringing than I, immediately panics and says, let's take things off the list. And I'm like, oh no, these are the things we desire and we're going to have these things. So let's play a game. Let's make money move to create the deposit. So I sat down with my husband. I walked him through the steps. I was like, so the first thing I want you to do is I want you to see yourself in the space in our finished home with all of these accoutrements that we want. And I want you to feel how amazing it feels. And I want you to visualize what it looks like and how tantalizing it is to your eyes. And I want you to, how does it smell? A new home, fully built with all of these things in it. And so I got him vibrating higher because we're
Wow.
getting into his emotional senses, right? And so then I
Yes.
said, now, to order to make this our reality, to make this our now, we need only $50,000 to get started. So let's create $50,000. So I said, okay, now I'm the entrepreneur. My husband is not. So I knew in my business, I could create $50,000. I needed to deliver that deposit in 2 weeks. So I wrote 3 emails and sent them out to my list. I created a $5,000 offer that I needed 10 people to buy. And by the time I sent the second email, those 10 spaces were sold out. So the credit card fees on that $50,000 that came up to about $1,500. We took $1,500 out of savings and we paid our $50,000 deposit in 7 days instead of 14.
Wow.
My husband couldn't believe it. But now he had evidence that this thing works, so he could start to shift his belief around what he thought to be true about money.
Okay. So there's a few things now. So I want to still go back to alignment because I really want to understand this because I think it's such a powerful word. Mm-hmm. And then you use the words make money move, which I think is interesting. And I know this is part of your money mindset philosophy. Mm-hmm. So we need to get into that. And then we'll jump into what you specifically do, because I think my audience is going to be like, wait, what does she do that she charged $5,000 and then made $50,000 in a week? Because I might need to adopt that too.
Right, yes, you might need to do that.
Yeah. So that we'll get to that. We'll get that. But let's talk about the foundation and the philosophy first. So alignment. Let's start there. Yeah.
So my definition of alignment is seeing yourself the way that God sees you. Now, we've already established I'm a woman of faith. And one thing I want everybody who's listening to know about me is I talk about my faith as if it is not a thing that separates me from other people. And so what I mean by that is you don't have to share my faith, but the principles of my faith can offer you guide points that can change your life if you are open to listening to them. I won't pass a collection plate. I won't try to convert you, but I will share the principles that I think are universal for everyone. And most people who subscribe to faith, regardless of which form of faith it is, believe in these things. So for me, the definition of alignment is seeing yourself the way that God sees you. Now, I'm going to back this up with a few references from the Bible. I quote the Bible just like I would quote Think and Grow Rich. Okay. So I'm establishing this for the listener who may not be a faith-centered listener, right?
Yes.
So first scripture, Genesis 1:26, God is creating everything. And he says, let us make man in our own image and likeness. That means that every single human was created in the image and likeness of God. That means that we are little g gods of the earth. The scripture goes on to say, let us give them the power and authority to call everything into and under their allow them to subdue anything. That means anything. You have power over it, including money. Right? So that's the first scripture reference. Second, Jeremiah 1:5 says, before you were formed in your mother's womb, God knew and approved you. So before you were pulled out, if you were a cesarean birth, or you were pushed out, if you were a natural birth, you were abundance. You came here as abundance. That is what God designed you to experience in your life. But then you met your family. And when you met your family, you became subject to how they see money, what they think about money, and you were raised based on those beliefs and separated from your abundance.
Yes.
So alignment says, if I am created in the image and likeness of God, and I was approved before I got here, then there is not anything that I could want or desire that I cannot have access to. And I am fully equipped in this moment to be able to be all of those things in the world. We got our identity. Alignment is about identity. And so when we think specifically about how do I figure out if I'm out of alignment, this is my quick test. Make an I am statement. So in Exodus, I think is where it happens first. God is talking to Moses, and Moses doesn't want to go get the children of Israel. He's like, send somebody else. I stutter and all of this stuff. And then eventually he goes, okay, I'll go. But who should I say sent me? God says, tell him I am that I am sent you. So we use affirmations today. I'm sorry. I have these abundance alarms that go off on my phone. So that just reminds me to stay in the flow of abundance.
I love
So we use I am statements or affirmations today in order to try to shift what is our current reality into what it is that we desire instead. And that's perfect. Because when you make an I am statement, if you change I am to God is, and it doesn't make sense, it means you're out of alignment. Here's an example. I am broke. I know everybody listening has probably said that. Didn't really mean that they were broke, but they said it in jest because in that moment, their money was funny. But if we say I am broke and we change I am broke to God is broke, does that make sense? How could God be broke? He's the creator of this abundant universe that we live in, right? He's the source of all things. He could never be broke. That's an indication that you're out of alignment, because alignment is defined by seeing yourself in relation to your creator. So that's my definition of alignment.
I love it. I love it. And then what about the making the money move?
Yeah. So because money is an energy, money is a currency that is flowing at all times. It's designed to move, right? So the universal law that governs this is the law of circulation. The law of circulation says abundance or money is expanding around us at an ever increasing rate. Abundance never stops. It never stops. Money never stops. Right now, if you don't have money in your wallet, somebody across the street does. It never stops. It's always flowing. It's always moving. Its ability to move to you is going to be contingent upon your relationship with it and whether or not you believe the money that you need, require, or desire in that moment is a lot of money. And you determine that by your own level of deserving. Now, most of us get our deserve level from our families. The things that they say to us, intentionally or unintentionally, let us know whether or not we are deserving.
Yeah.
Right. And we hold those beliefs that we take on from birth to the age of 7, and we replay the tapes in our mind so that whenever we're presented with an opportunity to up level, to go to our next level, to go to do something we really want to do, the tape that starts playing is the one that tells us we're not worthy. And because it was said by our mom, our dad, our grandmother, or our aunt, or our uncle, or a big cousin, we believe it to be true because these are the people who love us. And if they speak these things over us, they must be true about us, even though most people operate and move through the filter of how they see themselves.
Yes.
And they are projecting their own inadequacies on those around them. And all of this impacts the way we move about money. Money is a big deal to most people, but it's not a big deal to God, which is why in the Bible, money, wealth, and possessions is talked about 2,300 times, more than is discussed the difference between heaven or hell. 39% of the parables were about money, not because God was greedy and he didn't want you to be greedy, but because God wanted you to master it, because it's an energy that doesn't have control over you. You have control over it. And so I mean, I could, you can see I'm lit up. I could talk about this all day, but I'm going to pause there because you might have a question that you want me to clarify for the listener.
Well, I love all of this. And you wrote the way you see money, sales, and leadership is really about the way you see yourself. So what you're talking about, though, is that early programming. You read a book, somehow that unhooked you from that programming. Like you're like, oh no, I like this better. It literally like your soul was remembering. You said you felt it in your body with that one big goosebump. Some people aren't feeling it. They know it on an intuitive level. They know it, but they can't flip that switch like you did. So how do they get clear about that programming that they need to fix and get that upgrade?
Yeah. So the programming that you need to fix. So, well, let me back up. So when we are born and we enter the earth realm, we only come here with a subconscious mind. Our subconscious mind. So we have a conscious mind and a subconscious mind. Our subconscious mind creates our conscious mind based on everything it takes in. Think about a newborn and how you and your friends are in the kitchen and you say the word sex. And now your toddler is walking around saying sex, 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 right? Everything they take in it becomes reality for them. And so your subconscious mind takes everything that's presented to itself as if it's the truth. So the lack, the fear, the money is the root of all evil.
Yes.
You got to work hard for money. There's no tree that grows with money out back. All of the things, all of the beliefs, and this doesn't apply just to money. It applies to every belief we hold that isn't the truth.
Yes.
Every single one of those, your subconscious mind takes it as if it's true, and it brings you evidence to support your truth.
Yes.
So if you want to flip it, you change the truth. Your subconscious mind won't know the difference. So if you stop telling your mind you have to work hard for money, and you start telling your mind that money flows to you with grace and ease, and you don't have to work hard for it, your subconscious mind will believe that to be true. And then it'll bring you evidence to support that truth, because that's what the universe does. Once we decide, I think Emerson said this, once you decide, all of the universe rearranges itself to bring you what you desire. Paul Coelho in The Alchemist says something similar, right? The universe conspires to bring you what you desire. So you just have to decide what it is that you desire and what you believe to be true, and just keep telling yourself over. So when people recite affirmations, Michele, what they are attempting to do is to reset their subconscious mind. The challenge when they are doing it is that they don't believe what they're saying.
Yes.
So you have to say it and believe it. So it's about vibration of energy, right? So we can vibrate low. So fear, doubt, overwhelm, jealousy, lack makes us vibrate low. Or we can spend time in gratitude, love, faith, appreciation, and trust and vibrate high. So if you want to shift a belief, come into gratitude of what it is you desire about that belief. So here's a real life practical example, right? Maybe your money is funny, but you just close a contract, or you just get a client that pays you, and unbeknownst to you, you cannot believe anybody even has $10,000. They pay you in full, and $10,000 is sitting in your bank account. Spend time looking at that money in gratitude. I'm so great. Thank you. I'm so grateful for this. Think about all the good you will be able to do because of it. That's going to raise your vibration. And I believe that gratitude is the language that tells God to bring us more. So when we are grateful for what we have, God brings us more of that. And so you can start to reset your subconscious mind by expressing gratitude over what it is that you desire more of in your life experience, instead of lamenting over what you don't have. And that's where most of us go wrong. So instead of looking at the positive side of an occurrence, we look at the negative. And we keep regurgitating and replaying the tape of the negative, and then we keep getting more of the negative. So the worst thing we could ever do is to say we want something different without shifting the belief that accompanies it. So we have to do the work to reframe the belief. And any negative belief that you hold can be reframed into a positive present tense statement that you can then recite, and your subconscious mind will eventually take it to be true if you keep saying it over and over again, because it doesn't know the difference.
Absolutely.
Well, I was just going to say the most important time to do this is when you first wake up. So rather than grabbing your phone or turning on the news and being inundated with negativity,
Yes.
take that time in that moment and express gratitude and positivity over what you want and desire into your life experience. And the key is, you don't have to see it as your reality yet. You just have to believe that it is possible, and you are worthy and deserving of it becoming your reality in the very near future for it to begin to change for you.
Love this. Love it. And yes, once you have the awareness, so you have to start creating that awareness. Where is that lack? Where is that limiting? Where are those limiting beliefs? And then turn on the positive of that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Of what you actually desire. So talk to us about your actual work. So what is it that you do? So when you're talking about your $5,000 offer that you emailed to your list, what is it that you do?
Yeah, so I am, at the end of the day, in layman's terms, although this is a simplification that is probably going to be too simple, I am a business coach and consultant. So I work with entrepreneurs and small business owners who are stuck and stagnant at low multiple six figures, that know they have $1 million business inside of them, that want the support to create the infrastructure that will allow them to scale and sustain a business that makes millions of dollars a year, so that they can not only make that amount of money in their business and hire a team, but they can also create financial legacy and wealth for future generations.
Yes.
I'm a business coach.
Yes. And you're also healing your legacy.
Absolutely.
Through your legacy, you're healing your ancestral path. Yeah,
Absolutely.
which I think is beautiful because I think that's how it works. It's a continuum on both sides, where we're headed and where we came. So,
Absolutely. And I believe that once you know better, Dr. Maya Angelou said this, there's a responsibility to do better, right? So me
yes.
doing this work and integrating faith and spirituality in business growth strategy and with a specific emphasis to help our clients clear their money blocks and beliefs so that their money can flow into them, it's an essential piece of the work. I mean, sure, we develop strategy. We help our clients, do their packaging and their pricing and get clear about their messaging and their marketing and how to sell. We do all of that general business stuff, but we also spend time on integrating the spiritual principles as a part of it because, like I said earlier, it's an accelerant. So we're able to get our clients to the milestone of their choosing. Not every client we work with wants to get to the $1 million mark, but we get them to wherever it is they desire to be. If that's a 500,000, 750, 5 million, we get them there. And so in that particular offer that I posted at that particular point in time to create that $50,000, it was an opportunity for people to spend 90 days working directly with me. Most of our programs these days are group programs, but it was a private direct offer for 90 days to work with me.
Got it. And so they jumped on that, obviously.
They did.
So broke Darnyelle at 38.
Mhm.
What was that next step? You read those books, light bulb goes on, you wake up empowered to change your life.
Yeah.
Where do you start? Where did you start?
So I believe in blooming where you're planted. So I started where I was, right? So I was in my own business and I knew first and foremost that I was going to have to shift the way that I did things in my business. So prior to that point, I was charging by the hour.
What were you doing? Coaching?
Still coaching. Yep.
Yeah.
I was charging by the hour. And I believe that charging by the hour is an employee mindset, a poverty mindset, right? Because time is our most valuable resource. And listen, most of us were employees first, and we
Yes.
got paid an hourly wage, right? And as a result of that, we come out into entrepreneurship and start our own business, consulting, or whatever it is that we might be doing. And we charge by the hour. So I was charging by the hour. The problem with charging by the hour is there's only so many hours in a day. So you really cap your earning potential, especially because most people charge by the hour based on what they made when they worked in corporate America. So when I worked in corporate America, I was vice president before I left with an annual salary of $120,000. The equivalent to that by the hour was around like $75 or $80 an hour or something like that, right?
Okay.
So I come out into entrepreneurship and I think I'm cooking with gas if I charge $100 a coaching session.
Right.
Well, the problem with that is I haven't accounted for self-employment tax,
Health insurance.
right? I haven't accounted for health insurance. Like I haven't accounted for anything. So by the time that $100 covers all those things, I'm really making minimum wage
Yes.
in my business. And it's really hard to have money enough to do the things you need to do to position your business to grow, right? It takes money to make money. And if you don't have any money, you can't grow.
Yes.
And so one of the first things I switched is I started creating packages where I blurred the lines of what it would cost to work with me by the hour. So as an example, a $5,000 package might have been, if we were adding it up by the hour, it might have been 3 hours of my time over the course of 90 days. So 30-minute sessions for $5,000 versus $300 or $600 or whatever the case might be.
Right.
And we looked at value-based pricing because spending 30 minutes with me, and everybody who's listening to this episode right now will agree that in just this short amount of time that we've been speaking, their lives are changing and they're opening up a new paradigm. If they continue to shift into it, will change their life and their business, right?
Yes.
So imagine if me and you are spending dedicated time on just your business and your stuff for 30 minutes at a time. I'm going to change your whole life so fast. Well, the value associated with that is way more than my time that I spent with you.
Yes.
Because you're going to be able to take those lessons and those shifts and lean into them for the rest of your life. So when you understand value-based pricing, you can charge way more. Right. And so that was one of the first shifts that I made.
Yes.
And the second thing that I did is I created my own methodology and framework. That methodology today is called the Move to Millions method. It's what's in my book, Move to Millions, the Proven Framework. And so I started working with clients one-on-one, and I started documenting everything that I did with those clients and the results that they got. Once I had the system figured out step by step that if they did these things, it would produce this result, I knew that I had a winning formula that I could then leverage to take more people through the system at one time. So then I started to introduce group programming. Instead of
Mm,
serving one client at a time for 30 minutes, I might serve 10 or 12 or 20 clients at a time for 60 minutes. And
mm.
so now I'm expanding my capacity to earn, and I'm expanding or reducing the amount of time or effort I have to expend in order to earn,
Okay.
which is in direct alignment to how money moves and how money works. And so then you just keep tweaking and dialing it in and dialing it in until you get your perfect recipe to produce a predictable result. And then you start amplifying, right? You start replicating and multiplying. And that's the definition of scaling. Most people attempt to scale way before they're ready. You have to set your foundation first and know that it's going to work the same as it does for multiple people before you try to do it in volume.
How many clients had you taken through before you went to group, roughly?
I think I had done maybe 12 private clients before I was like, okay, I'm basically a broken record. I'm saying the same thing in every session to everybody. Number one, there's got to be a system or framework here. And then number two, I think I could talk to people at the same time. So
Yeah.
the next offer that I made was a group offer for people
Okay.
to come and work with me for a year.
And where did people find you? Because you had been doing it, it sounded like. How long had you been doing it when you hit that broke phase to then when you started kind of
So I
moving forward?
started the company in 2007, and
Okay.
we struggled initially for all the reasons that I've already described. I ended up even having to go back and get a job just to be able to keep the lights on as I was going through bankruptcy and all of that. And then
Yes.
January of 2011, I came back into the business full time. So once I went to full time is when I started to create those group offers.
Hmm.
So the period of time in between the two was around 2.5, 3 years
Yes.
working with clients privately to introducing group programming.
And how'd they find you?
I do a lot of speaking. So, today, of course, we're talking podcasts as well as stages. Back then, it was live stages. I would go anywhere where they would allow me to speak. I did a lot of networking meetings for, 20-minute talk. And in the back of the room, the people would be waiting for me. I would collect their information and go do follow up and close a portion of them to work with me in one of our programs.
I love it. And did you have a coach at that time, or was this all sort of intuitive?
I didn't hire my first coach until 2011, until I came into the business full time again. Because when I first started, I was leaving just before starting Incredible One Enterprises. I was a Mary Kay pink Cadillac sales director. So I was sending my car back to the company and getting ready to start this business. And things went downhill really, really fast. So I ended up getting a job. I'm like, you know what? I don't have the capacity for this right now. And I'm not willing to play with where I sleep. So
Yes.
let me get a job, right? And
Yes.
so
Yes.
once I came back into the business full time, I did hire a coach.
Yeah.
And I had, a lot of the knowing and the knowledge I had because I'd been very successful in business. I came from corporate America. Within 3 years, I progressed from entry level customer service representative to vice president. And then in my Mary Kay Cosmetics business, within 5 months, I earned my first pink Cadillac. I grew my unit, offspring directors. So I knew business.
Yes.
I knew what it took. And I
Yeah.
have an MBA in marketing. So I also knew marketing. So I could use those skill sets. I hired my first coach primarily because I wanted to continue to grow. And then also I wanted to be in integrity. I think that when you are a coach or a consultant and you don't have anyone coaching and advising you, that's a recipe for a little bit of disaster, right? And how are other people going to pay you to do something that you're not paying someone else to help you? So it's just
100%.
how we keep money flowing, right? And
100%. Go
so
ahead. I
yeah,
didn't
so
mean
I
to
was
interrupt.
like, it's hard to read the label when you're inside the jar. So let me go get somebody who can help read my label. And so then I started enrolling with coaches and or in masterminds to make sure that I had guidance and support as I continue to up level. And I always wanted somebody who had walked miles ahead of me so that they could help me to miss blind spots on the journey to catch up with them. And so those were typically how I would seek out mentors.
Absolutely. And I only mention it because I think it's important for people to hear to get to the next level. We all need support. So for me
Oh,
recently, I hired a
absolutely.
mentor coach because it's just what you said. I am a coach, but
Hmm.
you hit a point where you need that. external lens on what you're doing, and you start
Absolutely.
seeing things, and it helps you unhook faster so you can accelerate faster.
Absolutely.
Um,
Yep.
we've covered a lot. Talk to us before we wrap up about how God speaks to you, or spirit, or however you want to, or the universe for
Mhm.
whoever's listening. But how do
Right.
you get those hits? Because I did hear you talk about you were feeling called to write another book.
Hmm.
How,
Hmm.
how do you hear that voice? Because we talk a lot about, I call it like an inner whisper. And I think
Hmm.
that's your soul reminding you, hey, you've got a path here and you've got work to do. So I'm here to whisper in your ear so you pay attention and hopefully take some action.
Yeah. So God speaks to me in a lot of different ways. Probably where I hear him the loudest is in the shower. Because money, because because it's a space of flow. Your guard is down. You're detached from any outcome because you're just there, right? You're being. It's a
Interesting.
place where you are embodying. You are fully being
Yeah.
without the distractions and limitations that we are presented with when we're out in the world. So that's
Yes.
probably where I hear him the most. But I read my Bible. I could be listening to a song on the radio, and it doesn't have to be a gospel song. And in the lyrics of the song, I hear something that stirs my spirit. And then I just ask the question literally out loud and wait for the answer to come in. Sometimes in my journal, I believe in active journaling. And what that is I write the question down and I sit and wait until my spirit gives me the answer. Right. So I do active journaling. I read the Bible. I sometimes I have conversations with, prophets and, people that are that is their call. But yeah, I don't limit. I think God is in everything and we can hear him in anything if we are listening, if we're in
Yes.
tune, right? If we are open, if we have capacity to take into what it is that he is speaking to us. And we all get it, right? You get in your car and every single time you drive home, you go 405. I know that's a highway out there. You take 405, but something in your whatever you want to call it says no, take whatever another road is. And you either ignore it or you don't. And sometimes you ignore it and then you get on 405 and it's a parking lot and you're like, I should have listened. That was God. Because remember, we're created in his image and likeness. You are God.
Mm.
So you're just allowing for space for your own soul, your own spirit to speak to you in a voice that may not be as loud as some of the other voices to make sure you're catching the things that are there and designed to, guide you to the places that you're supposed to go.
Yes. And also, what I'm hearing there is having faith too. Because sometimes when I do that journaling with God, where I'll say, God, what do I need to know about this situation? Or is having the faith to trust that. Because sometimes what you write, you don't expect. And you're like, wait a sec, where'd that come from? Because you
Right.
have to have the faith to just go with it.
Absolutely. And the thing is, we all have faith because we all attempt to sit down in a chair and we don't even question if it will hold us. We all go out to our car and start it or attempt to start it, and we don't question if it'll start. So we all have faith. We just have to exercise the faith in all areas of our life and not just the tangible, constructive things that we can actually see.
I love this. Is there anything I didn't ask you today that you really want to make sure the women listening take away from the conversation?
The biggest thing that I think I would say, I mean, I think this has been an amazing conversation. Thank you so much. Is, if you want to really work through the money stuff, if it's okay, I
Yeah.
do have something that's coming up that you could potentially, plug into, and it's completely free if you want to learn more about it. I'm not sure when this episode will air, but on March the 20th, at the time that we're recording this, I'm doing a 1-day event called the Make Millions Move Summit, where I'm going to be teaching and starting a conversation around a lot of these principles and paradigm shifts that will lead you into allowing you to collapse the amount of time it takes for you to move money as fast as you desire, regardless of what's going on inside of the community. And if you happen to listen to this after March the 20th, there will be an option to purchase the replay if it's something that you'd like to have access to be able to help you in your life and in your business.
Okay. Now I'll just note for my audience, we're recording this on the 28th and there are a bunch in the queue. So if it comes out, it's possible that I can pop this into the newsletter and say interview to follow too. So,
Okay,
because I
awesome.
think it would be really valuable. I think, like I said, making money is important. And I want women listening to be as empowered and independent financially as they can be.
Absolutely.
Where can my audience learn more about you and your work? Where would I
Yep.
direct them?
If you go to movetomillions.com, from that page, you'll be able to click the link for the masterclass. You'll be able to learn about my book. You'll be able to learn about our live event that we do every May and all of the things that we have available to support you on your own journey to and beyond the $1 million mark.
Thank you for being here. I've loved this conversation. Like I said, I had a feeling. I just knew it would be a great conversation. So I'm really glad that you came on today.
Thank you so much, Michele. I appreciate that. And I've had a blast being here with you. I'm excited of all the women who are going to listen and begin to ask themselves the questions that are going to lead them closer to what it is that they want. And I think the last thing I would just leave with everyone is desiring money is your birthright, and there's nothing wrong with it. And you don't have to feel guilty. You don't have to apologize, and you don't have to justify that you desire more, because you were born abundance, and wanting more is your ability to get back in touch with your divine birthright. You're supposed to have more.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I fully support everything you've said today. And all the show notes will be over at thegoodlifecoach.com. Share this with your friends. Just share it with everyone that, anyone who comes into mind, especially that person needs to hear this interview. So forward it to them immediately. And thank you again, Darnyelle. Such a pleasure being with you today. And I look forward to continuing to follow you.
Sounds great. Same here.
Hey, friend, I have one request before we sign off today. If you've gained any value from any of the interviews that you've tuned into, would you take just 1 minute and leave a 5-star rating and review over on Apple Podcasts? It's actually how more women can find the show, and I want to continue growing a community of women who are loving themselves and living full on. So thank you for all of your support, and I look forward to being back with you next week. Bye for now.
This podcast is presented for entertainment and educational purposes only. Any information provided is not intended to be a substitute for medical, mental health, or other professional advice. Seek out your trusted healthcare provider or other qualified professional for all matters dealing with your health and well-being. Any opinions or information provided by a guest are their own and not those of Michele Lamoureux or the company.